Welcome back, explorers. I'm David, that's Wesley, and this is the Trailcast.
The weekly show that gets so far off track, you'll have to stick around to see just where we end up.
Hope. Rebellions are built on hope.
That's right. Today we're talking about Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Get into this.
Yes.
All right.
David, today we're talking about Rogue One. I know we had said that we weren't going to talk about Rogue One, but we fit it in, and I think you and me both are very excited to talk about this.
And I know when I texted you earlier, it would have been last week now, about this, because we had kind of an open spot on our schedule, and I texted you about that, and because I know you had been talking about wanting to talk about Rogue One for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, here we are.
Can I just say that I forgot, like, even aside from the fact that I think I firmly place Rogue One as my number one Star Wars, like my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Just because it has an amazing storyline and has, you know, the newer effects that just it all fits together, and it's an amazing Star Wars movie. But that being said, I forgot how good this movie was.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing movie.
It has been a while. It has been a while since I've seen it, sadly, and I forgot how good this movie was.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's my favorite, but it's definitely in my top 5.
It is number one, and right behind it, probably very closely behind it, is Empire Strikes Back, and then maybe after that might be Revenge of the Sith, just simply because of more nostalgia stuff. But I think we should maybe at some point, maybe at the end of this episode, we should go and rank our favorite Star Wars episodes, or maybe we should wait till we actually go through them all. One of the two. We do need to rank our favorite Star Wars movies. Give a list.
Yeah, we probably do need to do that, but I would say we probably need to wait till after we talk about them all before we do that.
Just so we have them all, yeah. But I'll just say that I think as far as everything goes, because it's an original story, more or less. I mean, it is an original story. It's based off of, you know, a line in New Hope, but it's an original story with original characters. I think one thing, in my opinion, that really just makes this so good is what we've talked about before in the podcast. The thing that I think that makes this movie so good and that makes Empire Strikes Back so good is something that we've talked about before, and that is the heroes don't, like, they win in the end, but they don't win without a cost. I mean, obviously, for those who have watched the movie, and if you haven't, clip away now and go watch it. But for those who have watched the movie, obviously, all the characters die in the end. So, you know, that is a major loss, you know, for the heroes.
Mm.
And I think that really just shows the stakes, how high the stakes are. And another thing, and I'll shut up in a second here, but another thing I was going to say is I think this movie really shows just how... It really shows a lot of behind the scenes of the war effort, and how like things are, you know, the rebellion's not, you know, as good as you think with a lot of what Cassie does, and the Empire is obviously not good. But then it also shows you a lot of like the trauma of war that you don't really see in a lot of the other movies, you know.
Mm. And I do want to dive into the characters a little bit later on, but let's go ahead and just talk about the story real quick. So like you said, it's, you know, it's basically...
One comment?
Go ahead.
One comment while we dive into this. I looked at it because I was curious. So this movie really throws a lot at you in the beginning of it. I mean, it throws a lot at you because it has to get you really attached to these characters just to kill them off at the end. It's a solo movie, so it has to have, you have to get attached to these characters. But it introduces Jalen. It introduces all except for if I can remember the names. Let's see, I have IMDb pulled up right here. It introduces all except for Chirrut Ewan. What's his name? The blind guy.
Chirrut.
I can pronounce that. Okay, it introduces all except for him and Basil. Baze? Is that what they call him?
Yeah.
Baze. They introduced everyone except for him in this movie. They might not introduce Brody, but I think they do. I think they introduced Brody all within the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Mm.
It's already introducing all those plot points, and it's like it really does seem like a lot, but it does it really well.
Mm.
But anyways, go ahead and dive into the actual summary of the story of the movie.
Well, yeah. So basically, this whole movie is based off of the opening crawl from A New Hope. Well, actually, I think it's just one paragraph from the opening crawl, which this movie does not have. If you hadn't paid attention to that before, yeah, only the mainline Star Wars movies have an opening crawl. Anyway,
Does Solo have one? Because I haven't seen Solo in a while.
I don't believe so.
I think I've only seen Solo maybe once out of theaters, but I think I only saw it seen it once or twice. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. So yeah, basically the story begins, introducing us to Jyn Erso and Galen Erso. Well, more so to Galen Erso because Jyn is a kid in this flashback scene. Yeah. Basically, kind of setting up the premise. Jalen Erso is the lead engineer working on the Death Star, and he's been in hiding, trying to get away from the whole project because, obvious reasons. And then director Orson Krennic tracks him down. Yeah, Krennic tracks him down and basically persuades him by force to come back. Anyway, so that
he persuades him by killing his wife.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so all that comes to it. Galen ends up going back with the Empire, and Jyn ends up with Saw Gerrera.
Can I make a comment real quick about? Well, I guess never mind. Saw Gerrera is a character we need to dive into though, because I have some comments about him.
We will.
Is he on your list?
Yes.
He is on your list. Okay, good. We're good to go. Continue.
Yes.
I'll shut up.
Yeah.
I'll try.
So yeah, then like you said, it goes through the whole setting up the movie, introducing all the characters. There is a scene with Bodhi and getting captured by Saw Gerrera's men in that first 15 minutes. So yeah, you're right. Anyway, so basically all this stuff's leading up to the rebellion trying to track down Galen Erso because they had rebel intelligence has gotten wind of the Death Star being built, but they don't know exactly what it is, and they know Galen Erso is involved in all this, so they're trying to track him down, trying to basically eliminate the threat.
Yeah.
So they go to Saw Gerrera to because Saw Gerrera and Galen Erso had been in contact in the past, so they go to track down Saw Gerrera. His men end up capturing them. And of course, Jyn knows Saw Gerrera because he pretty much raised her after his after Galen Erso got
Galen Erso.
Yep. Yeah, after Galen Erso got or went to work for the Empire again. Anyway, so long story short, the what was the name of this planet they were on?
Jeddah.
Jeddah. You're right. Yeah, Jeddah. So, while they're on,
It's where they were mining the kyber crystals that they were using for the
for the
Death
Empire.
Star, if I'm not mistaken.
Or, yeah, for the
Or
Death
not,
Star. Yeah.
they weren't mining them. I don't know if they were mining them, but I know there's like a refinery there. And I think that's one of
Yeah.
the big things that Galen Erso was a part of. He was helping them do that, and then he got called on for the Death Star and was like the head guy.
Yeah. And while we're on Jeddah is when we're introduced to Chirrut and Baze.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently they had comics about them too. I haven't read any of them. It probably dives more
Was that
into
before?
I think it's after.
Was that before Rogue One?
I think it's
I
after.
was gonna say, I was wondering. I didn't think that there was any existing characters in this movie
Other than Saw Gerrera.
I was. He Saw Gerrera, yeah. Well, Saw Gerrera, obviously was taken from Clone Wars, which is some of my comments that I have on him. But yeah, everyone else was, obviously.
Well, Saw Gerrera was in Clone Wars, Bad Batch, and Rebels. But yeah. Yeah, so they get captured by Saw Gerrera. Jyn finds the hologram from her dad about the weakness in the Death Star. Jeddah gets blown up by the Death Star because Tarkin wants to test the weapon. And then they end up going to try to track down Galen Erso because they know where he is, or they got a location on him now. And when they finally get there, Krennic finds out that Galen Erso was trying to reach the rebellion about the Death Star, and ends up killing him just as Jyn gets there. So,
Well, actually, he kills the other scientist, but the bombing
That's right. The bombing
rebels called in is actually what kills him. Although, side note here, and this kind of creates some tension between Cassian and Jyn, is that Cassian was actually ordered to kill Jyn Erso. He didn't, but he ended up dying anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so after Galen Erso dies, they end up going back to Yavin 4 because that's where the rebel base is at the time, because this takes place in 0 BBY, so the same year that A New Hope takes place, because it takes place literally right before A New Hope. So the rebel base is obviously still in Yavin 4. And they try to convince the Rebel Alliance to go to Scarif to steal the rebel plans. The council doesn't go along with it, so they end up going on their own. And
what's funny about that is that they end up going on their own because the council says no, but then everyone on the council was like, yeah, but secretly we want to. So it's like, y'all could have figured that out ahead of time and just been like, okay, let's not, let's actually come up with a good strategy here to do this. And they end up all going anyways.
And if they did, the crew of Rogue One probably wouldn't have all died if that actually had the entire alliance working together on this.
Which fair enough from a movie making standpoint, because you have to kill them all off. But that being said, it is so infuriating watching that, and obviously I think it's meant to, because you're supposed to be on the side of Jyn and Cassian and all, Rogue One. You're supposed to be on their side, and them wanting to do this. But it doesn't really make any sense why the rebellion wouldn't want to do this. Okay, yes, it's a really heavily armed base. It's in heart of Imperial space or whatever. It's heavily guarded, not easy to get into. But if y'all don't go and get the Death Star plans and find this potential weakness, or even exploit another weakness that there might be, what hope do you have to you're basically saying, yeah, we're gonna lie down to the Empire. We're screwed. They got this big weapon, we can't do anything. That's essentially what they're saying without saying it. And it's that's just sad that they they took that stance, despite redeeming them. Well, not redeeming themselves, but they, changed their minds in the end.
Mm.
I wonder if maybe the reason they were so much better, so much more like they were so much more willing to invade Endor in episode 6 was because of their thing here, where they didn't coordinate something to begin with, because Endor is a pretty heavily guarded, not this heavily guarded, but heavily guarded.
Also, one thing
probably nothing to do with each other.
One kind of side note I want to point out too is this is like the last time we get to see Bail Organa. Because you think about it, he goes back to Alderaan, and we all know what happens in A New Hope. So
yeah, I mean it really sets up A New Hope, which we're talking about. I think in not this next week, but the week after, which is kind of fitting.
Never mind. It's in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, yeah.
What? I don't even know what day it is. Anyways, we're talking about it sometime this month.
Next month.
Anyways, but same difference. It's all the same difference to me.
It's August 7th.
Well, anyways. Anyway, I don't care.
Of course.
Anyways, if for anyone listening, or David, either one, it doesn't really matter because you're technically listening too. If you hear any thuds in the background, on my end, that is Thor jumping up and down. He is playing with a new toy of his. It is an R2-D2, fittingly, and yeah, so that's what that is. I don't want to take away from this fun.
Made a cameo in this movie.
Yeah, him and C-3PO did to claim their title of still running in every single Star Wars movie.
Except for Solo.
I was going to ask, they're not in Solo, are they?
No.
That's stupid. I like Solo, but that's stupid.
I mean...
Anyways.
There's not really any way they could have been... Well, I guess you could have made some...
there are. It wouldn't have made sense, but you could have just been like, boom! There they are! And everyone would have been happy. That's why Solo bombed. It wasn't because of the poor performance of, Rise of Skywalker?
The Last Jedi.
Last Jedi. They're both trash. Well, maybe not. I need to rewatch them. We'll find out. We'll find out if I...
So you're saying they could have had Han and Beckett pull off a heist on Alderaan and have a cameo from C-3PO and R2-D2?
Exactly. See, David, you are thinking here. You are thinking outside of the box. I love it. Now, real quick, before we get too far off on a tangent, let's just go ahead and finish up the summary of Rogue One. Right. They make it to Scarif. They all die after getting the Death Star plans. All right, back to what you were saying about Han Solo.
I think you skipped over a lot there, but we'll come back.
I did not. They got to Scarif, they got the Death Star plans, and they died. All individually, but collectively they died.
Okay, we'll come back.
And then there's a real cool scene. There's a really cool scene with Darth Vader.
Yeah, we'll come back to Scarif.
That's about it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, we'll come back to Scarif and the Darth Vader scene. But,
okay. Well, yeah, the Darth Vader scene's not on Scarif. It's above Scarif, actually.
Well, yeah, but...
See, Dave, you gotta get your facts right.
I didn't say...
And I thought you were a Star Wars fan. I thought you were a Star Wars nerd. You have been deranked? Unranked?
I said Scarif...
Declassified.
And the Darth Vader scene. I wasn't referring to them both in the same...
Yeah, see, but that's not what I heard. That's not what I heard. See, it's not what I heard. And what I hear is all that matters, whether you said it or not.
Right. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Continue.
About what?
Your lies. I don't know. What are you talking about?
I mentioned something about Solo, but...
I don't know. But let me ask your opinion on something real quick.
Okay.
So, obviously, we all know that Rogue One is, basically takes place right before A New Hope. It's supposed to like end, and then A New Hope is supposed to start. Like it's supposed to kind of be like that. So, from what I can remember, and if you know better, then obviously you can correct me with your answer. But I don't think that, at least at this point in time, tracking people through hyperspace was something that they had technology-wise. So how do they follow the 1004 after it jumps to hyperspace?
That's a good question. Because wasn't it's been a while since I've seen the original trilogy, so yeah, I know it's bad on me. But wasn't Boba Fett the first one to be able to actually track someone through hyperspace?
That wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I honestly can say I don't know a whole lot about tracking people through hyperspace as far as like the history of it or when it becomes a thing, but I know that that's a problem, and I think that's one of my only real problems with this movie is that little bit at the end, and it's like it's a little bit more continuity. It's like, yeah, but that's not how this works, you know? See, I would have been fine if they were to do that, and then later on, Vader is looking for the Death Star plans, and he, is basically just going after everyone, and he knows that Leia is a part of the rebellion, he knows that that's a rebel ship, and he's like, hey, we found this, let's attack it. I'd be fine if that's the case, but from what I know, that's not supposed to be the case. It's more literally this ends and A New Hope starts.
Well, so there's two things that are kind of weird. So there's that, but then there's also the fact that Leia is trying to, she says, we're on a diplomatic mission from Alderaan.
Yeah. Which is why I say that if there was a gap, if there's a gap there to where they boot off into space, but before they're able to get the plans to the Rebel Alliance, stuff happens, but there's like a little bit of a gap there for some reason, then I'd be more okay with it because it's like they're not tracking them, they find them, and then she can be like, well, hey, no, we weren't a part of that, because you didn't just see us leave.
I guess maybe if there is a gap, I guess if there is a gap, then that kind of a gap of a couple days that does help with that,
Yeah, I'd say the only thing that it really opens it up for error is that why didn't they get the plans to the Rebel base? Like that'd be the only reason that it wouldn't really make sense.
Let's see, where is Scarif on the map? So I know, let's see. Trying to figure out what their route would have been from Scarif to Yavin 4.
Oh, to Yavin 4. Well, find out where their route would. I guess they would have had to have gone. Well, they wouldn't have had to gone, but I guess go by way of Tatooine because that's where they obviously were.
Okay, so there's Tatooine. Oh gosh, there are so many planets. You keep talking while I'm looking for this.
Side note: amongst the silence, I just took a sip of my Dr. Pepper over here, and it's a little bit bubbly, and so I let it sit in my mouth for a second, and with my earbuds in, it sounded like it was raining outside because of the fizz. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. That's all I had to say.
Why was this important for us to know?
David, why wouldn't it be important? It sounds like rain outside. Even though it's not raining. Isn't that cool? Yes, it is, David. And you're lame for not thinking it is. Find your facts and get back to me. You didn't even know that Darth Vader didn't kill all those rebels on Scarif, even though he's on Scarif in Battlefront. It's not canon, David. Well, Battlefront 2 is, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I'm talking about the battles where you can play as him. It's not canon.
Also, can we just talk about how the EA DICE Battlefront games, both of their last updates were Scarif?
Wait.
they added Scarif to both.
Battlefront 1 for the EA has Scarif on it?
It's one of those DLCs you have to buy. Or is it like
one of the...
It's a DLC, okay. but still, that was the last... What?
Is it a multiplayer level only, or is it actually because I know they were honing in on multiplayer for the first Battlefront game, which is why single player didn't have a whole lot. But is that kind of how it is for the Scarif, or is that like a single player thing?
I think there was both.
Okay.
I never bought any of that stuff for the Battlefront 1, but
Battlefront 1 wasn't worth it. I mean, it was at the time, more or less, because it was Battlefront and it was new. But when Battlefront 2 came out, Battlefront 1 was no longer worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, back to Rogue One. Have you figured out the best route for them to go from Scarif to Yavin?
I have not located Scarif yet. The maps for the galaxy are kind of there's a lot.
What?
So
a big galaxy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this though real quick. So speaking of Yavin, this is not a new thing that I'm bringing up. I just want to talk about it. Let's talk about what you would have to do to be the guy who there's a specific name for it, but the guy who basically tracks the ships and sits in that tiny little tower in all of the movies that Yavin is featured. You know?
Is that where your mind went with in that scene?
Yes. Why wouldn't it? I mean, why is he up there? He's in a tiny little tower. It's probably really cramped. And he's really high up. Like,
yeah, I mean, do they not have any better way of
Well, I've heard it said too. It's like why couldn't they get a droid to do it? A droid would be just fine.
Also, they don't have any better tracking systems than just a guy looking up in the stars.
They have to use a radar gun. Radar gun. Wait, is that what
is that it?
I
don't know.
Speed gun. Speed gun.
Radar gun.
What's it called? Yeah. I don't know why, but that just didn't sound right.
Okay, so yeah. Going from Scarif to Yavin by way of Tatooine is not the most direct way. So
Star Wars debunked.
But okay, if you have the chance of being followed, you're not going to go straight to the where the secret base that you're heading to. You're going to try to, lose whoever might be following you.
How far out of the way is it? Like, do you think that it's possible that it could have been a couple of days gap between Rogue One and A New Hope? Because they went that way? Like, where the Empire could have found them again?
Possibly.
You know what? I'm not looking at the map, but I think that's going to become my new headcanon. If it's,
Okay, because... So, Geonosis and... Well, on the map here, Geonosis and Tatooine look very close to each other. I don't know if they're, in the same star system, but that's... beside the point. But Scarif is actually it's very close to Tatooine, but it's actually between Tatooine and Yavin.
So Scarif is between Tatooine and Yavin. Okay,
so they went the opposite direction. So I think it's probably them trying to lose the Empire.
See, that makes sense. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But
okay, that's my headcanon. That's my new headcanon.
I also don't know if
I'll take place that close together.
I also don't know, like, on the map they look fairly close together, but I also don't know, like, time wise how long it would take to get there. But
Yeah, I mean, the map, I'm assuming, doesn't have, like, distances or anything like that on it, so you will be able to see
Now,
that.
now, on a side note, I know we're supposed to be talking about Rogue One. We've already been talking for 30 minutes, and we haven't really talked much about Rogue One. But on a side note, I just want to mention that Naboo is closer to Coruscant than Tatooine is. So in the Phantom Menace, why did they have to stop at Tatooine when they were heading to Coruscant? They would have had to go
Where'd you find this
way out of their way.
Where'd you find this map?
Oh, just look it up. There's a website that's got the whole map.
Well, I'm saying, like, it's a like trusted source, like Star Wars canon source.
This website,
like
this website's not an actual like official site, but everything I've seen that's got an actual map of like the Star Wars galaxy has this pretty much same layout.
Okay. Well, that's Wars debunked. Hey, let's be honest here. Star Wars, as much as we love it, Star Wars is not the greatest at keeping things like canonically in order. But it doesn't all flow perfectly. So you have to stretch things to make it make sense.
Before we go ahead and get way off topic, let's jump back into Rogue One. Let's go ahead and talk about the characters real quick.
Who you want to start with? The main character? The second main character? The third main character? The fourth main character? The first main villain? The second main villain? The third main villain? You're not going to stop me? Okay. The fourth main villain? The fifth main villain? Vader?
Hold on, fifth main villain. Hold on, wait a minute.
The Emperor's...
Hold on, wait a minute. There aren't 5 main villains in this movie.
Clone Trooper TC995.
Clone Trooper?
Stormtrooper? Death Trooper.
I was about to say, this is Galactic Civil. This is not Clone Wars.
Well, maybe it could have been a clone. They might not have been all out, but they probably would have been all out by this time. Never mind. Anyways, let's start off with Jenner. So, okay, let's just start off with something simple, easy for me to wrap my head around. You know what? One reason I think I really like this movie, like you and me have talked a lot about how, we like characters in movies who have good depth to them, who are just all around, like they're just written as good characters, not characters that are all powerful and have no flaws, or characters that figure out things immediately. And what I'm referencing to that is this is an amazing female lead for a movie. And they don't do what Marvel did in Captain Marvel, where they had someone who just didn't really have any flaws. And you never really saw much of growth in the character, in my opinion. And they didn't do what they did in the new trilogy, as much as I think that they did a lot of good things in A Force Awakens. Rey figured out how to use her powers way too quickly. Jyn Erso is an amazing character, amazingly written, amazingly acted. She's just great, and she makes this movie really good.
And I will give the character development with her, you kind of see she's never really not. So okay, kind of the way I take away from her character is she, in the beginning, she's kind of she has the line of I think she was talking to Saw Gerrera. She's got the line of Saw Gerrera asked her if she can stand seeing Imperial flags across the galaxy, and she's like, it's not a problem if you don't look up.
Yeah.
See, I feel like she's never really not been, a rebel, quote unquote, but she just was trying not to, or didn't want to be, because she saw what the Empire had done to her parents and stuff, and obviously working pretty much for Saw Gerrera for throughout her childhood. She just wants out of it.
I think the biggest thing with her is that she wasn't necessarily she didn't want to join the rebels, but she didn't want to follow the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And as the movie goes on, she realizes, I don't really have that choice to not follow the Empire and not join the rebellion. Because if I do, I'm going to get left by the wayside. I'm going to get run over here. If I want to do something to make a change, I got to go do it myself. Which ends up being what they do. Like, and I think that's kind of the character development of like before we jump too far, but like jumping into Cassian, he does the same thing. Like, he's been basically doing what he has to, feeling like he's made a difference, but he's just basically following orders the whole time. And then it comes down to the end, and he's like, no, I gotta go and do this because this is what I see as right. This is how I help the rebellion, whether the rebellion thinks I'm helping them or not.
And now with Jin's character development, like, you kind of see like it kind of I guess matures right there, right when her they're on the landing strip there, and she sees her dad dying, and her dad dies in her arms pretty much. That's kind of when it all becomes like the realization, all becomes real to her. Her dad died for this cause, and whether she likes it or not, it's her cause now too.
Yeah, well, I think that's a lot of it is like maybe she didn't necessarily want to get involved in it all because, she didn't want to deal with it, or, it wasn't her fight or this or that. But yeah, when her dad dies and she knows that her dad's just died because of his involvement with the Empire, his involvement with the Death Star, but also with his involvement with putting a trap in the Death Star. Once she realizes that, she's like, well, yeah, like you said, it becomes her cause. Like, she's like, oh, this is my cross to bear, more or less. She's like, I need to finish what he started.
Yeah. So, of course, Jin is the main character, pretty much the main character in this movie, and has the greatest story arc, character development. But her character development greatly affects Cassian's. Because, basically, like you mentioned, or briefly mentioned earlier, Cassian mentions the fact that, he's even done things for the rebellion that, maybe not necessarily were the moral thing to do.
And you kind of see with him, you see a lot of the underhandedness of the rebellion. Like, they're the quote unquote good guys, but they do some bad things.
They're fighting for the right cause, but they don't always make the right decisions.
Yeah.
But that's one thing with Cassian, like, seeing this character development or character arc with Jin is what changes Cassian. Like, him seeing this person who originally didn't want anything to do with the rebellion or with him, and then actually start to have a passion for the cause, and actually, is the one pretty much leading this whole mission, is what, sparks that character development with Cassian. And now...
Yeah. I mean, and like, it seems, in some ways, like, when I first was looking at it, it seemed kind of abrupt, like, how, they get back from that, and him and Jin have just had a fight, with the fact that she's like, you're supposed to kill my father. And he was like, I'm doing what I was ordered to do. And, he's like, we don't all, like, what's the line? He's like, we don't all have the choice, or haven't had the choice. Like, I've been fighting in this war since I, was a kid. I think he said 6 years old, he's been fighting in this war. And so it's like, and, they go back and forth a little bit. They had this fight, and then they go back, and she's like just going off, and she's like, "Hey, we need to go to scare and get these Death Star plans." And like you see the passion, and then it's like, the next thing you know, it's like everyone's on board with her, and it's like you said, you don't really necessarily always think about it, but like there's those background things of he's like, "Hey, this is important to me," and then she shows that, hey, it's important to her now too, and there's that, hey, you know what, we're gonna go do this because this is something that we both deem very important, and it needs to be done. So now we're on the same page.
But one thing I also want to talk about too. So we're moving on to the rest of the main crew, I guess. So a lot of them don't really have much character development in this movie, but I do want to talk about Bodhi real quick. So
okay,
he doesn't really have much character development. He's got a little bit, but he doesn't have much in the movie itself. Most of his it's interesting because most of his takes place before the movie.
Yeah,
because think about this.
Defecting from the Empire.
Yeah, because think about this. He's an Imperial pilot, and Galen is the one who encourages him to defect.
Mm-hmm.
He presumably being an Imperial pilot is, generally on board with a lot of stuff the Empire did. Well, maybe not so, but
he was a cargo pilot.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily he was, involved in a lot of the, like, massacres and stuff the Empire was behind, but still,
yeah,
he worked for the Empire, and, he put his own life on the line to bring down the Empire's new super weapon.
Mm-hmm. I think it really starts off with his character, and you're like, wow, this guy, yeah, sure, he's, defecting from the Empire, and, they're going to want to kill him because he has some valuable information. But he starts off, and you're like, man, this guy's a coward. I think his character growth really comes down to a lot of it has to be like, he goes from being a coward to being very courageous.
And that's
very courageous right now because he's barking. And I'm not too happy with him barking while I'm recording. So,
but that's his main character development in the actual movie itself is the finding his courage, because you see it like right there on the ship when he's trying to transmit the message, like when he's on the comm with Cassian, and Cassian's telling him like, okay, look, we're relying on you. You have to do this. And he's like, like you can kind of see the gears turning. And he's like, and he finally makes the decision. Okay, look, I got to do this. And that that's kind of his moment to shine. But juggling these many main characters, there's not really a whole lot of time you can spend with each one. But I think this movie did a good job.
Yeah. Now moving on to the other two main characters in Rogue One, Chirrut and Baze. I don't really, and you might be able to describe better than I can, I don't really see a whole lot of character development in these two characters. I think Baze has a little bit of character development once Chirrut dies with, he's like kind of mocking the Force a little bit. Maybe not completely, but kind of in a little bit. And then he's like, okay, no, the Force is my guide. I'm going to do this last thing in honor of, my friend who has just fallen,
And yeah, that's what I would say too with them. Chirrut doesn't really have much at all. He's more so comic relief. Which I love Chirrut in this movie. He's amazing. But he's more so comic relief. Same thing with K2SO. Yeah. But
are you kidding me? I am blind. They put a bag over his head. That's hilarious.
Yeah, but he's more so comic relief in this movie, and he also kind of like encourages the rest of them to actually go on this mission a little bit too. But it's kind of interesting because he's both the comic relief and the voice of wisdom. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
but
and it is a nice little balance. As far as K2SO goes, I think he is mostly comic relief, but I think there's also a little bit of development in his character as like he starts off obviously not liking Jin and all, and he's being very sarcastic and maybe a little bit disrespectful to like Cassian and like other people like that. But like by the end of it, he's willing to sacrifice himself for the good of the rebellion. I think it's just a tiny little bit of uh character development, but it's kind of I think just a hint at he's changed a little bit through the movie.
Ultimately, the character development in all of these main characters revolve around Jin primarily, just because she is the main character of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like what you're saying is like how they juggled so many main characters, like more or less main characters, and they had really good, like not even always just development in the characters, but like you didn't feel like a character was like seen as flat. Like they all had so many dimensions to them, and they just like they all worked really well together. I think the fact that they all have somewhat of a character development and their character's identity run so strongly in the movie, at least through Jin, I think that's why it works so well. It's because it's not like each character has to be their own character. Each character runs through the main character to some extent.
Yeah. And
now, switching gears. Oh, go ahead.
All right, I was about to say that. Let's talk about director Krennic.
Well, I was going to go to someone else, but you know what? Let's talk about director Krennic. Number 2 bad guy.
So obviously, he's the original, or not the original, but he's the, I guess, main villain in this movie because he's an original character to this movie.
Yeah.
But I want to talk because I think they did a good job with him being the, like, he thinks he's more than he is. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to compare him to Kylo Ren just because Kylo Ren is kind of this same, like, archetype of villain, but the egotistical, like, thinking he's all that. They did a much better job with him in this movie than they did with Kylo over the 3.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. One thing also I think that's really cool about his character is how different he is from the other directors and other like higher ups in the Empire. The actor is was it Australian? I think. What is he? Let's see. I haven't pulled up right here. Australia. He's Australian. Now, typically, when you think of, like, especially like Tarkin and other people who are high up in these ranks, a lot of times they're British, which come off as a lot more like noble. I'm not original in this idea. I heard this, but I thought it was an interesting point. So, he's not full on Australian with an accent of an Australian. He's not coming across like that in this movie. But he does not come across as elegantly as like Tarkin or other like higher ups in the movies. And I think that's one thing where it's like he's different, good, bad, or indifferent. He's like I'm not gonna just fit the cookie cutter mold of all the rest of these Imperial, people over here. It's like I'm going to be better, and like he's even like you see how pissed off he is that Tarkin is like, yeah, I'm gonna take over the Death Star, as my ship, even though Krennic has been the one overseeing the operation and dealing with it all, building it, and kind of assuming that he'd be in charge.
And presumably he's been over this project since, well, pretty much since like Revenge of the Sith. Because
I do wonder, I kind of wonder more background on this character, and I don't know if they never will now because Clone Wars is over. But it's kind of one of those things where it's like I kind of wouldn't have mind seeing him.
We might see him in Bad Batch.
That's true. That wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him in Bad Batch as kind of a beginning to the Death Star project. Now, that's kind of an interesting thing because, well, I don't know, because they're going with the whole Imperial cloning thing, which I think is going to end up leading to, well, connecting to The Mandalorian more. But they might do a
probably
side
which
story
will
with that.
connect into, which will probably connect into the new trilogy. But anyways, but yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing, because we have, Tarkin is in Clone Wars, and
in Rebels.
I need you to shush. Yeah, so it's like, but I'm saying, like, as far as like Clone Wars go, like Clone Wars is so it shows him as a officer in the Republic. So like, where did Krennic come from? Presumably he probably was a officer in the Republic at some point. So it's like, where's his beginning? We meet him at the beginning of Rogue One, but like, where's his beginning? Also, like, okay, Death Star plans were seen in Attack of the Clones. The Death Star is partially built at the end of Revenge of the Sith. So it's like, I wouldn't mind even having some more puzzle pieces put together as to like all the ins and outs of the Death Star. And like, when was Galen Erso, like, was he only helping out the Empire, or did he start out helping the separatist or whoever was building at the time? Like, when did he come in? And because I mean, they say that he came in obviously with the Empire, but it's like the Empire had already been building it at that point, and he had already worked with Krennic beforehand. So it's kind of like what's the timeline here? Because it is a little bit fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
so I'm also kind of curious, like the opening scene to Rogue One, when that takes place, because Jyn.
How old's Jyn?
That's a good question, because I don't think Jyn is like as young as like Luke and Leia. So I don't know. I would say Now I know she said 15 years at some point in the movie, but can't remember if that was the last time she saw her father or the last time she saw Guerrera. I can't remember.
Let's see. I'm trying to, and this is obviously going to be difficult. Jyn Erso in Rogue One. I want to know how old she is. That is all I'm looking. Let's see. Jyn Erso was born in the Outer Rim ice planet 21 BBY. So she'd be around 21. And this is from Wikipedia.
Okay, so she was a little bit old, or she's like 2 years older than
yeah,
Luke and Leia.
So depending on how old she was at the beginning of that, it'd probably be around what?
So
maybe
probably was around 15 years.
15 BPY. Yeah.
Yeah. So Director Krennic was over the Death Star project for at least 15 years.
Yeah, and Revenge of the Sith
is 19 BPY.
It's 19 BPY, so that would have been 4 years after. So it could have been a thing where they brought in Galen Erso, maybe around 18 BBY, possibly, as they're really starting to get more into this. And then he drops out, and then, 3-4 years later, 15 BBY comes around, and that's when their the beginning of the movie starts.
Yeah. Sounds like we got a good timeline.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. So yeah, but basically, to sum up everything I was saying, like, I think Director Krennic was a good one-off villain for this movie.
Mm-hmm. He did a really good job, and I think he also really showed the bickering between him and Tarkin really showed just how the Empire's run, and how how evil it is in a lot of ways, and a lot of the things that Krennic does, like when they do the first fire for the Death Star, what's the line? He's like, beautiful, looking down at the destruction, and he's killing hundreds of people, and he's just like, this is beautiful. He doesn't care about individual people. He cares about what gets him where he wants to go.
But
I think that just really shows the corruption in him, and I think that makes him a great villain.
I also love the irony of the fact that he builds this super weapon, which is ultimately what kills him.
Yeah. It is funny in that way. And it also if you look at it from the other stance, the Death Star ends up killing Tarkin too, and Tarkin was like, yeah, that's mine now. Like there's a little bit of irony in that too. Wait, speaking of, while we're on the subject over here, let's go ahead and move over to Tarkin. So this was, if I'm not mistaken, the first time that a deep fake had been done at least this well in a movie.
Yeah.
Because Lucasfilm is on the cutting edge with deep fakes.
Yeah.
So
obviously
but anyways,
obviously Tarkin doesn't really have a whole lot of like character development in this movie because obviously his more so comes over like a long period of time because he's one of those characters that's been in all the TV shows and all this stuff. But I do like the fact that you get to see more of his arrogance in this. Just the fact, like you said, like he pretty much like came on the scene. He's like, okay, this year, this project that you've put most of your life into, Director Krennic, this is mine now.
Yeah, and you can't say anything about it.
Yeah.
I really did like that because it also showed like, the maturity that I guess he wouldn't have had if this is in Zero BPY. It does show, like, I mean, he's a little bit different than, he is in the New Hope. But it's like, you also don't really see him interact with too many other high-up officials in that. So it's like, I do like the fact of, like, there's a little bit of arrogance. So there's not a whole lot to talk about as far as a character. I do want to say, as well as a deepfake is, seeing this after seeing the Indiana Jones movie, I'm not discounting this, and I'm not saying it looked bad. I'm just saying it shows how far that technology has come.
You know? Let me say that real quick too. Like, for the time, that deepfake was amazing, but now it's obvious. It's very like, especially like,
it's a little rough.
We just talked about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and that was one of the best deepfakes for a long period of time that I've seen. Because that's almost like a 20-minute sequence with that, with a deepfake. That's one of the best deepfakes. It looks
really good most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so after seeing that and comparing to this, but I'm not saying that this is bad because it was the best at the time.
Mm-hmm. And I think they did a really good job with it. Like, it's obvious, but it doesn't really take that much away from the story, because I think as you're watching it, you see it and you're like, okay, they wanted Tarkin in the story. As far as like respects go to Peter Cushing, like they got, family to sign off on all this. Like, they did everything right. This was okay for them to do ethically. They got him in the movie through deep fakes, and once you know all that and you're like, okay, he's in the movie, you can look past the fact that it may look like, rough at certain points, or even most of the time he's on screen. But it's like, it doesn't take, like I said, it doesn't take away from the story.
Well, I will say, it doesn't look bad. It looks it's obvious, but it doesn't look bad. And there's a difference.
Yeah. I mean, this movie is surprisingly older than I thought. 2016.
Yep, 2016.
That's oh boy. Oof. It's 2023, David. So that means that this movie is what, 7 years old?
7 years old? Yeah, 7 years old.
7 years old. That is what happened, David? I remember this coming out. And what? And Force Awakens is older than this.
You're kind of peeking your mic a little bit.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all you and the listening. But what happened, David? Force Awakens is older than this.
Yeah, it's.
And I don't this know. Is old.
I don't
Force
know.
Awakens 2015. What is it, David? Where did time go? Oh my. Sorry to peek my mic, but I am just in shock. I'm not gonna lie. Because I knew it was older, but deepfake technology has come a long way. I think the same thing goes for the Carrie Fisher Princess Leia at the end of the movie. It looks, good for the time, and it looked really good when it first came out. But seeing it in comparison is like, okay, yeah, it's obviously they've progressed the technology, and I think it's something that used right is really good for the industry, Now, what I've been chopping at the bit. Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say, since we're still talking about characters, and I know you want to talk about Saw Gerrera, let's go ahead and move on to that.
I've been chopping at the bit to get to Saw Gerrera. Well, I have some points with it. I have one major point.
Go ahead.
Okay, so obviously we were talking about the fact, like, Saw Gerrera is a character from the Clone Wars. He was created for the Clone Wars. And I had never really thought about this one point, but so the episode stories, the story arc in Clone Wars where the Jedi, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, all of them, they go and they train Saw Gerrera and his men how to fight, because at that time they're still rebels, but at this point in time they're rebels to the Separatists taking over. And how they train them all. So presumably, like, okay, they're rebels already within the ranks of, during the Clone Wars and throughout, the Separatists being the bad guys. So I hadn't really thought about this, but I was listening to a podcast the other day, a Star Wars podcast, and it was talking about the fact that, like, everyone's like, well, how do these band of rebels have, military grade weapons or, official training or anything like that? It's just a band of, like, people getting together with some guns and, attacking a global superpower. And it's like, well, in some ways, yes. But, like, if you take just a little bit of episode from, those episodes of Clone Wars where it shows Saw Gerrera and his men getting basically military training from the Jedi, it kind of shows that these groups here who were basically saying we're not going to take a seat to people coming in and telling us what we can and can't do. Like, government's fine, but you're going a step too far. They weren't going to take it during the Empire either. So this is probably where a lot of the rebellion started.
Well, also
these being trained soldiers because of the Jedi. So it's like this kind of sprouts into what probably ends up becoming later on down the line, once he probably goes a little more extreme, sprouts the rebellion.
Well, and you also have to think about this too. Like, Star Wars is a space western. Like, some things are more so than other. Like, that's one thing I realized about Solo is like a western heist movie, but it's Star Wars. But that's one thing you gotta realize. Like, it's and you gotta think of it like you would, like, America during the time of the, like, 1800s. Yes, there are pockets of civilization. Like, the closer you get to the galactic center is, like, the closer you get to the east, further east you get, if you compare it to, like, America during the 1800s. But,
yeah,
the closer you get to the Outer Rim, the wilder it gets. The Outer Rim is the Wild West of the Star Wars world. Like, all these people in the Outer Rim have to learn how to fight, to fend for themselves. It's not just something of, like, and yes, it might not necessarily be formal military training, like in the case of Saw Gerrera, but most of the people in the rebellion came from the Outer Rim. Like, look at in Rebels, Ezra started out on Lothal, which is, like, way out in the Outer Rim. It's so that's what I mean. Like, it's comparable to, like, 1800s America.
Well, and that is true. Like, I'm not that fat, but it's like, you think about, you look at the rebels, and they don't just come together as a band of, a bunch of people who are fighting in a war and, kind of just going out guns blazing. Like, they have military strategy, and they're strategic with how they go about things and all that stuff. And I can't help but think, like, I personally, whether it's, canonized or not, I remember that podcast reminded me of that episode, and it kind of is a nice little Easter egg in my mind of, okay, yeah, Sagraer, he's a rebel, and all his men get trained, to help fight against the separatists at the time. And I get, it's like, well, maybe they also passed on some of that to what later became part of the rebellion. Obviously, like we see in Rogue One, they're not exactly with the rebellion because they, as I say, Sagraer is an extremist.
Mm.
But, which means he must be extremely extreme with some of the things that the rebellion is okay doing. But
well, I mean, you did see.
It's like one of those things. Go ahead.
We do see parts of that, like when his men capture Bodhi, like they torture him to try to get information out of him. So
Yeah, and I guess it all depends on what your definition of extreme is in this case.
Yeah.
Would they align on killing people? Like, obviously at one point, what was it? Cassian just shot one of their intel guys because he was injured and kind of would just be keeping them, slowing them down. So it's like, obviously that wasn't something that the rebellion altogether said, all right, we vote, yes, you can kill him. Like, it wasn't something like that. But being that that's something that he's gotten to the point where that's like in his mind, he's like, yeah, this is something I need to do. Shows that there are some aspects of the rebellion that are less than good, less than pretty to look at. So it's like, yeah, I wonder what the definition of extreme is with Sagraer and this to that. I will say though, like, there isn't a whole lot of character development in Sagraer in this movie. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's a pretty established character, having been in Clone Wars and Rebels, and now is in Bad Batch. But it is one of those things where it's like he's always this big tough guy, and he's leader of this band of rebels. And now he's like, well, maybe I'm done fighting. Maybe I'm done running. Maybe I'm a little bit beaten down by war. I think that also shows kind of the effects of war. Like, he's been fighting basically his whole life. Mm-hmm. And you see just how beaten and banged up he is. He even, has the Darth Vader breathing thingy.
Yeah. And speaking about Darth Vader,
yeah,
I said we need to get back to the hallway scene. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, on Scarif. As quoted by David.
I didn't say it was on Scarif, but whatever. Anyway,
I think before we get to that though, talking about Darth Vader, I do think, and I heard this, that the director of Rogue One, if I can figure out, let's see, where's it at? Director Gareth Edwards, really liked in Empire Strikes Back, where they had the scene of the back of Vader's helmet or head without the helmet on. He really liked that because it showed a vulnerable side to Vader, which is why he has the scene with Vader on the back tank. And I really think that's like a cool contrast. It's like, when we first see Vader in this movie, he is in a back tank, and you just see him as a blob. I don't know how to, he's just there. Like he has no arms, no legs. He's just kind of there, And then the contrast to he's vulnerable in the beginning, but by the end, yeah, I mean, he's the Vader that we all know. Like, he's someone you do not mess with because he is going to tear the ship apart.
And like,
hey, that is actually a line. Hey, look at that! I wasn't even trying to do that. Tear the ship apart.
But
yeah, didn't even think about it. Continue.
And like this is one point when we actually get like a. And I'm not faulting the original trilogy because obviously effects weren't, what they are now. But this is the one time that we actually get to see the sheer strength and terror of Darth Vader.
And in that scene, like, it is horrific. Like, you're sitting there and you're like, you're not even in the room, and you might have even seen the movie before, but they're trying to get the Death Star plans out, and you're like, you're just like on the edge of your seat, and you're like, oh, are they gonna get it? Are they gonna is he gonna get the plans, or are they gonna escape with him? And it's like just the fear that it instills in you, like that is what makes Vader so. That's what makes Vader such a great villain. Is the fear that he puts in you. And he does it tremendously in that scene.
Yeah. And I don't want to get too much... I'm about to start talking about like the character of Vader. I don't want to get too much into that because we're going to talk about that when we talk about the original trilogy, especially in Empire and Return of the Jedi. But, yeah, I do love just the terror aspect we see of Vader in this movie, especially in that last scene. We see it a little bit in the Kenobi show, but I think this did it way better.
Yeah. And I think that's one nice thing about Kenobi is that it was able to do some of that. And I think the fear factor comes through in the Kenobi show. I don't the parts where he's in action are as cool. While they're still cool, I think this is cooler. But I think a lot of that has to do also with the fact that like Kenobi is not in his prime anymore. So it couldn't have a full-fledged good fight.
This scene kind of makes me want to see maybe not necessarily with Vader, maybe with another Sith or something, but it kind of makes me want to see something R-rated in the Star Wars universe, just so we can get to see like an actual like Sith like at full power, actually like reaping carnage everywhere.
I don't really know. Well, I guess because I was gonna say Darth Bane. I feel like Darth Bane would be a good character for that. And my reason I came off saying I don't really know was because I'm not really sure entirely how like. Okay, if they do that, my first thought was, well, there's not a whole lot because Darth Bane, goes into hiding and he kind of stays behind the scenes. But before he gets to that point, he obviously becomes a Sith, kills all of the Sith, and then goes into hiding. So it started a years-long plan to overthrow the Jedi. But there's a lot that happened. I think he'd be a really good character.
Yeah, that would be a good storyline. So, like with that darker, grittier thing, like what I'm talking about, that would be a good thing to do.
You could make that R-rated. You could do that horror-esque. You could make that and do that really well. I mean, Darth Bane is obviously he's a really powerful Sith too. So, he'd be one to be able to do that.
Yeah, like I said, but really, there's really of course only so much you can get. While keeping the PG-13 rating. And I don't know if Star Wars is ever going to want to do anything beyond that, because Star Wars has always been, like, at least in my mind, like, most of Star Wars is something that, even as a kid you can watch and it's fine. So I don't know if they'd ever want to actually do that. But I'm just saying, that'd be cool.
It would be cool, but it's, like you said, it is a little unrealistic because of the fact that,
that's not really what Star Wars is.
Star Wars is for kids, and we're just big kids.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're 20 and 21-year-old kids. We're not the same age. Let's go. I'm on the bad end of this deal. Oh well, I'll get there. Actually, no. I'll say I'm on the good end of this deal. I'm not old. You're gonna die first. And it's not because you're older than me. It's just because I can't say that on here. Then I have audio like this. I'm not going to kill you. But I'm going to probably be the reason for it. Let's be honest here. I think we both agreed that we're going to die at the same time. And it's going to be epic.
We're probably going to have the same cause of death.
Yeah. Stupidity.
Yeah. Our stupidity specifically.
Anyways. Yeah. But I'm gonna live longer. I will live longer. It will be a couple of seconds, but I will live longer just to spite you. Anyways.
Yeah. So, do you have any more to say about Rogue One?
I actually do. So,
okay.
Why is the Death Star upside down?
That's a good question. Yeah, because
it's just in a couple shots, but the Death Star is upside down, and I just gotta say, the gun, the divot or whatever in it that generates for the gun is on the bottom.
Yeah, it's
until it's not. Yeah, it's on the bottom until it's not.
Because it was on the top in every scene in New Hope.
Yeah, it was on the top in every single scene in the New Hope. By the end of this movie, it's back on the top. And at the beginning, when they're firing it on Jeddah, it's on the bottom. So, is it a thing where it's kind of like it can rotate, but it's only an exterior thing, so like the inside of the ship still stays? Or is it a thing where, because it's space, they can be upside down and they don't notice it, and there's just
okay,
gravity.
so
or is it like a planet where so that would make sense.
So okay,
I still don't understand why it's upside down.
Yeah, being upside down is kind of weird, but when you think about it, it does make sense, because think about the International Space Station. Technically it's still in Earth's gravity, but it's they say it's weightless, like you can float around up there and stuff. And the Death Star has artificial gravity, so it being
if
in
it's
orbit
no
around
moon,
a planet wouldn't affect it.
Is it bigger than a moon? And does it have its own gravitational pull?
Well, everything has its own gravitational pull, so yes, it
I know, but
does.
Does it have a significant amount of gravitational pull?
Now, that's something I don't know,
and
that would be interesting to know, is all the gravity on board the Death Star artificial? Or was it built with the size in mind that it uses its own gravity and doesn't have to have the artificial gravity like a ship would?
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I just thought it was a weird thing that it was upside down. I don't really care that much. It's just like, why? Why is it upside down? I just need to know. That's all.
I guess so they could hit Jeddah City and not have... I don't know. I don't know. You'd think they could have just done it while it was still right side up, but...
I mean, they shot Scarif right side up.
Yeah.
So, they can target one spot and be just fine, but...
But we didn't get to see it blow up a planet.
Yeah.
Just destroy the surface.
Well, we gotta watch the next one.
Of the planets. It's true.
We gotta watch the next one for that. Coming as soon as we watch it.
August 7th.
I'm not wrong. Yeah, but that would be as soon as I watch it.
August 7th. Anyway.
As soon as I watch it.
Right.
Oh, we didn't talk about one main character in this movie, and that was Galen Erso.
Yeah, so okay. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Galen.
He built the Death Star. Alright, on to what's new with you. Dun, 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 dun. That's John Cena.
No, so one thing. Now, this isn't really like in universe really about Galen Erso, but one thing I do want to talk about. So, of course, Galen Erso is played by Mads Mikkelsen. I don't know why his name's always hard for me to say. Anyway, which you're
stupid.
We talked about two movies in a row with Mads Mikkelsen. Anyway, what's with that? Anyway, but
I don't know, David. What's with that? You got some kind of a man crush? Mine's Ryan Reynolds and Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth.
So
should I keep going?
In the Ahsoka show, I know they were talking about casting someone for Grand Admiral Thrawn. and I'm pretty sure it's actually going to be Lars Mikkelsen, who's Mads Mikkelsen's older brother, and he voiced him. He voiced him in Rebels. Yeah. But I did hear people talking about.
I heard. If it's not confirmed, I feel like I've heard that all but confirmed.
Okay. But I heard people.
I'm not up to date on that.
Okay. Well, neither really am I, but I'm pretty sure it is going to be Lars Mikkelsen playing it, or playing Grand Admiral Thrawn. But one thing I think is kind of interesting is people were saying that they need to get Mads Mikkelsen to play Grand Admiral Thrawn, but he was already in Star Wars.
Yeah. What was it? And
the voice would be better. It'd be better if it was the voice to, But yeah.
What was it? Taika Waititi was talking to Nick Portman and was like, "Hey, wouldn't you like to be in Star Wars?" So maybe we'll forget. You might have said something that makes this completely off topic, but I wasn't listening after you said Mads Mikkelsen has already been in Star Wars. I got a text. I read the text while you were talking, and then I interjected with what I had to say. So that's about how that string of events went.
No, I hadn't changed topic. But yeah.
Oh, good. Then I didn't need to disclose any of that.
Yeah. You were just being very awkward. So
that's not too hard. I mean, it comes kind of naturally. All you have to do is
true.
Anyway,
you're still whispering. It's like it wasn't getting picked up.
Dang it, that sucks. Oh well, I did whisper in the mic, but I won't whisper sweet nothings into your ear because that'd just be awkward and unnecessary.
Well, also, you'd be whispering sweet nothings into all of our audience's ears too. So I don't know if you want to.
I don't mind that part of it. I just don't want the immediate feedback of whispering sweet nothings into your ear. If I do that, I'll just do it in person. Anyways, so you like to stay on one topic for too long. All right, moving on. Anyway, I said what I said and I meant what I meant. I don't know what I meant, but I meant it. Anyways, so hopefully anyone listening, this is not the first time. No, just parts of it. What I was gonna say was, hopefully this is not the first episode that someone listens to. Anyways, if
it is, they might just have to stick around for chaos.
They might just leave. Well, that's true. It might be really good. Who knows? Who knows what we think of this? I don't really care. Anyway, what I was going to say before I was rudely interrupted by myself. But anyways. Was that I forgot. Galen Erso is the maker of. Well, he made the plans for the Death Star, which he made a flaw, which will be exploited in Episode 4. So while Jin is the main character of this, Galen Erso is the driving force of the movie. And I kind of like that additional bit of the character, even though he has so little time in the movie. Like, Mads Mikkelsen does a great job with him. He actually plays a good guy for once, and, I guess he can do both. But, anyways, he was trying to stay as close to a bad guy as he could because he was still on the Empire, technically on the Empire's team. He was wearing Empire colors. So, But he builds the Death Star, or helps build the Death Star, and creates a huge flaw in it. That I guess you could probably say that causes the fall of the Empire, if you think about it, because after the first Death Star is destroyed, the Empire kind of scrams for a little bit, and then they start building the second Death Star. But if they had never had the first one destroyed, the Empire would have probably been unstoppable. Well, it would have been because of the fact that the majority of the rebellion would have been wiped out, because if they didn't destroy the Death Star, Yavin
They
4
would have
would
blown
have
up
been
Yavin 4, yeah. Yeah.
I beat you. Get over it. As hard as it might be, get over it. I beat you to it. Because I knew what you were thinking, and I thought of it first. I'm saying I thought of it first. Those were the words that played in my head. So
That's not what she said, though. Or maybe it
But
is. I
anyways,
wasn't listening.
we all know. It may have been. I don't remember. Anyways, but the point of the story is that Star Wars is not about the Skywalkers. It's actually about Galen Erso and the fact that he actually beat the Empire, and he's the real hero. And Mads Mikkelsen, even trying to play a villain as a hero, or a hero as a villain, played the biggest hero of them all. What's new with you?
Sure.
All right. Play the music.
What's new? What's new with you? What's new? What's new with you? What's new? What's new with you?
Yeah.
Alright, Wesley. What's new with you?
Absolutely nothing. End. Roll credits.
Fair enough.
Now I have to actually think. What is new with me? Nope, that might be it. Yep, that might be it. Okay. What's new with you, Dave?
I'm blanking. Oh, I started playing a new game.
Of course you did.
Well, not a new game, but
You want to finish? You want to finish mine for me?
No, but I think I've got another one to put on your list.
Screw you.
No, this one I started playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
Man, that is a good game.
Now, is that a series of games that you need to play? Because there's a bunch of those, aren't they?
Well, there's technically only, depending on who you ask, there's 2 or 3 of them.
What am I thinking of then? There's some game with, or maybe I'm just remembering more titles than there actually are for it. Let me look it up.
Well,
anyways, keep talking about it.
Well, what do you know about Red Dead?
Nothing.
Okay.
Unless I look it up and see something that looks familiar.
Okay. Well, it's a Western.
Oh, I knew that much.
So,
yeah. Okay. Never mind. I know this. Yeah, I know this game. I have not played it or seen anything from it, but I know this game. I'm thinking of something else. What am I thinking of?
Are you thinking of GTA?
No, I know that.
Okay, well,
you don't think I know what Grand Theft Auto is?
Well, okay, it's by the same studio, so I don't know if you were getting those mixed up. But
no, I don't even know the studios. So
yeah. Anyway, so Red Dead Redemption, it's by Rockstar Games. Anyway, but yeah, follows character of Arthur Morgan, who's an outlaw in the Van der Linde gang.
Mm-hmm.
Now I haven't gotten too far into. I think I'm only about 30% through the game, so I haven't gotten too far.
Are you playing on some Xbox?
Yeah. I think this game would kill my PC. I need to get a better PC or a better computer.
You and me both.
Well, we have the same model computer.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why you and me both.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah.
Okay. I was thinking, for some reason, of Far Cry.
Far Cry. I do have a Far Cry 5 I want to play through. Now, those you don't have to play through any specific order either.
Okay. But that's what I was thinking of for whatever reason. So, but you can go ahead and keep talking about what you're saying.
But yeah, Red Dead is actually Red Dead 2 is a prequel to Red Dead Redemption.
Okay. So
yeah.
Play Red Dead 2 first.
Yeah, I guess. But what I said earlier that there's, depending on who you ask, 2 or 3. Now, most people probably agree there's only 2 because Rockstar back in like 2004, 2003, something like that. I don't remember the exact date, but or the exact year, but they released a game called Red Dead Revolver, which is kind of like the predecessor to Red Dead Redemption. And that game is not technically canon to the Red Dead Redemption games. But it's in the Red Dead series, but it's not canon to the Red Dead Redemption story. If that makes sense.
Yeah. How when did Red Dead 2 come out?
2018 or 2019. Hold up.
So this is a game that they're probably still like going to release more for, or is it like a 2-game? Like, is at the end of whatever the first one is that just like, is that a conclusive story and this is just a prequel to it, or are they planning on making more?
Okay, it's this. Or 2018. Yeah, so they are both self-contained stories. I don't really know the story of. I do know one thing that happens at the end of Red Dead 2. But I don't know like the overarching story. I just know like one detail. Well, I'm going to tell you because you're probably, if you ever do play it, it's probably going to be years down the line, and you'll probably have this spoiled by then if you look into the game at all.
But I don't care either way. But go ahead.
But basically, in both of these games, the main character dies.
I was going to say, so this is not the same character?
No, it's not the same character.
So it's a prequel in the sense that it just takes place beforehand, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah. Now, okay, there are characters that are in both. Like the protagonist from the first game is a side character in this game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's something I'll have to check out. And if I ever get any time to do stuff, you know what? I will definitely be binge playing some games. Granted, I have to have the patience to be able to do that, but I would love to binge some games. But time is not it's a scarce thing around here. So, well, it's not, but it is. Free time is I think what I'm looking for. But anyways. Yeah. I'm still trying to rack my brain about if there's anything new with me, but I can't think of anything. I did watch an episode of Community today.
Oh, that's good.
But that's about it. It's my prep for next week. So
I was about to say you're
one episode.
I was about to say you are selling a house, but yeah, I don't know how much details you want to get into that, but
yeah. But yeah, so most of the things are like what I do on a normal basis, like like watching movies, playing games, stuff like that, are typically what I probably would discuss on here. Down the line, hey, if people care more about personal life, then we can maybe dive into some of that. Right now, I don't really feel like it's as an entertaining product. I am selling a house right now, so that is one thing. That I am glad to be done with by the end of. By the time this podcast comes out, I will be done with that. The house will be sold, so I'll be glad to be done with that.
Yeah.
So, but Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing interesting. I guess I'll put it that way. There's nothing interesting that's new with me that I can think of.
Yeah.
I tend to live a pretty boring life. We've been watching through The Office. And you know what? I honestly, with that in mind, watching through The Office, I don't know. Like, I told Sarah this. So we're watching through right now season 8. So that's right after Michael leaves, and where most people are like, the show kind of goes downhill. I would agree that it goes downhill, but it is a gradual decline. Like, there's still a lot of episodes that I really like, and 2, it still really feels like The Office. Like, it kind of feels like you work there and someone left. Like, that's kind of how it feels. It doesn't feel like anything's really changed besides the fact that, yeah, Michael's gone. And, for as weird as he is, I love Robert California as a character just because of how crazy he is. And, Dwight starts to emerge as a really good character in these last couple seasons. Andy has his time that he shines, even though it's very quickly goes downhill. A lot of that's just because he had other movies to film, so he's gone for a lot of it. But, I think the biggest thing is like this, that, Pam really just goes downhill, and so does Jim. But I kind of feel like it's intentional too, because I told today, one of my favorite lines to quote from The Office is, "You've been meatballed." And, that's obviously the time where Jim is pranking Dwight, but he's just, doing meatballs. And Dwight and Stanley have been kind of in it together to get Jim to do that so that they can basically have free lunch or dinner. And I told Sarah, I said, one thing I think The Office does do that they probably shouldn't have done is that at this point in time, this is still early season 8, probably a little before midway through season 8. I was like, what they do is they start, Jim is still the hero. Like, you still look at him and you're like, he's the one that needs to win and Dwight needs to lose. You still kind of see it that way. As the tables are kind of turning, that's kind of how you see it. But Dwight is winning more and more. Subtly here and there, but he's winning more and more. And you're like, it kind of makes things feel a little bit off. Whereas I think that it really should have just stuck with the fact that, yeah, Jim is the quote-unquote hero. He needs to keep winning, If their bond becomes better, that's okay. But I don't think it needs to be where, Dwight is necessarily upping or getting the best of Jim, It doesn't really
They did a lot of stuff with Jim at the end of the series that wasn't good.
Yeah. That's really the thing. I think season 9 really gets into more of the this is not as good, but it wraps up and it's good. Like, the end of the series is really good. So it's worth getting through those last 2 seasons for the last 2 episodes of the series. So But anyways, no particular reason why we started here. We just popped in some discs and started watching. Actually, what I'm pretty sure happened is we started in like season 2 or 3, and then I accidentally popped in a disc and it was season 6. And so now we're in season 8.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so it kind of happens. And I mean, we can more or less do. What was weird though was I was watching it. What was I doing? There was a character who was in it. And I don't remember which character it was, but there was a character in it. And the next thing I know, I pop in a new disc, and it kind of left on a cliffhanger in the last disc, because, episode to episode. And for the discs, there's like 3 or 4 episodes on a disc. But I popped in the next disc, and I started playing it, and there's like completely new characters. And I'm like, wait, where did this character go, and why is this character in it yet? And I was like, oh, we must have skipped a couple seasons. And I was too lazy to get up and change, so we just watched it. Yep. Anyways.
Fair enough.
That's my life. I work, and I watch The Office. So I work twice, and I watch The Office.
Fair enough.
Ooh, which, speaking of the work and the work that we do here on this podcast and on the YouTube channel, I do want to kind of shamelessly promote this. Something that me and David have been working on. We've talked about it a little bit, and we finally released it this past week. Our movie not breakdowns, but like recaps, I guess. Yeah, recaps. And I actually got a text from my sister earlier today, and she was talking to me, and she was saying that she really, really liked the recap that we did for Revenge of the Sith, and was like, saying how, sometimes she doesn't always have the time to watch the full movie, especially when, like, we're talking on the podcast. Well, if she watches that ahead of time and then listens to the podcast, she can kind of be caught up with the main idea and the main plots of the movie if she doesn't want to see the movie if she hasn't, or if she doesn't want to rewatch a movie that she has seen. And so that's kind of the idea of those recaps. Is, the one that we did for Revenge of the Sith is 10 minutes. And I'm working on one for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny for this next week, or this past week, as a recording of this. But I'm working on it, and by the time it comes out, it will be out. And, it's probably going to be about 10 to 12 minutes long or so. Short little bits, and so you don't have to watch the whole movie. And, go check those out. Tell us what you think about them. Comment on them. Leave likes. And, also a thing that I don't think we talk about enough on here is that for those of you who are listening to this and who like it, obviously if you don't like it, then don't feel like you have to listen. But for those of you who like it, like, tell other people about this. If you like it and you know someone who might like this, like, tell them about it. Get the word out, because we work really hard on these things. And we put a lot of time and effort into these, and it's all for anyone who listens to it for their enjoyment. So we hope you enjoy, and if you do, show that you enjoy by, liking, following, subscribing, all that stuff, and then, telling other people about it so that they can also enjoy, possibly. So also, I just wanted to say that because that is one thing that's new with us and me, is that, we've been working on those recently, and I thought it was really good, and so it's something that, I wanted to plug in there.
Yeah. Also, if you want to see us do something or hear us talk about something, let us know. You can, say the thing I always say at the end of every podcast, and you can DM us on Instagram at DownTheRabbitTrailYT, or you can leave a comment on YouTube or on Spotify. Just let us know. We do need to get Twitter set up. We want to know, but yeah,
we do need to get Twitter set up.
Yeah, but yeah, just let us know what you think.
Yeah,
or what you want to see.
We have a schedule for the show, but like, we also have gaps, and we also want to know what you like. And if you don't like something, we also want to know about that too. We want this show to be shaped for what the audience wants to hear, and anyone who's listening, y'all are the audience. And, if you like Pokemon, we'll go someplace else because we're not into that. But there's nothing against Pokemon. We just don't have the time. So, but if you're into Star Wars and Marvel and, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, The Office, what other things we have on the
also
DC, like any of those.
If there's a movie or a series that we haven't talked about that is similar, like, we love movies like Back to the Future and a lot of the other movies, like 80s action movies and stuff like that. We love those kind of movies. If you want to hear us talk about those, let us know. Just let us know.
Yeah. We want feedback. We don't get enough of it, and we honestly love feedback. So,
and any kind of feedback. If you want to tell us that you hate the show and you hate listening to us, go ahead.
We love comments. We love comments. So hate us all you want. We're still here.
Hey, and I might regret this later, but you might regret me. You might regret me saying this too, but. If we get enough hate comments, we will add a segment roasting you with your hate comment. So,
I love that idea. Everyone, just send in hate comments, please. I love roasting people. Yes. I've been doing this my whole life. I've been I've been roasting people, and nobody pays attention to me, so I can finally have the time to shine.
Yes, so go ahead. I might regret this later, but go ahead.
You might, but I won't. Anyways, for me, that's all I have. A shameless plug and The Office. So that's my life. But I don't know. Do you have anything else, David?
Nope, that's pretty much it. And we've been recording for almost an
right.
hour and 15 minutes, so let's do an outro.
It's a shame we didn't hit 2 hours, but I think it's time to wrap up.
Yeah. Well, explorers, that's all the time we have for today.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Let us know what you thought in the comments down below, or you can DM us on Instagram at DownTheRabbitShowYT.
And be sure to join us next week on The Trailcast. Do 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 do.
Wrong music.
John Cena. Yeah, I know, but it seemed like it fit.